Hey ladies, welcome back. We are about to start talking a little bit more about female physiology, and I'm starting with the menstrual cycle. So the menstrual cycle begins on day 1 of your period and ends the day before your next period begins. That's one whole cycle. Now that cycle length can vary between 28 and 35 days. So if your cycle is a lot less than 28 days or a lot more than 35 days, I would definitely recommend you go and see a specialist to see if there's anything up like PCOS or anything like that, okay? Not to worry, but just always good to make sure. So our cycle is in 2 halves, okay? So you've got the follicular phase and the luteal phase, but there are 4 phases in that, okay? So let's start with the follicular phase. So this starts at menstruation, so day 1 of your period, and ends at ovulation, usually around day 14 of your period, okay? And in this period is where your ovaries start to develop the eggs, okay? So your ovaries usually develop around 10 to 20 eggs each month, okay? Now these follicles produce estrogen, which causes the uterine lining, so the uterus's lining, to thicken to house the mature egg. So in that first 14 days, the lining of your uterus is getting thicker and thicker because the eggs are being produced and estrogen is coming, like going right into your system, okay? So, and then you have your luteal phase. So luteal phase begins at ovulation, okay? And then the lining gets thicker as you get a surge of progesterone and estrogen, okay? And if the egg doesn't get fertilized through, well, egg, sperm, fertilization, then you start getting a breakdown of mucus, okay? But whilst the follicular phase and the luteal phase are happening, so the 2 halves, you have ovulation right in the middle. So if you're looking to get pregnant, this is the best time to try and get pregnant, okay? So during ovulation, there is a rise in the hormone LZ, which triggers the release of the mature egg, okay? So bear in mind, those 10 to 20 eggs that were produced in your follicular phase, only 1 will mature, okay? The rest have broken down because of the rise in estrogen in your body. They haven't got it. You get 1 strong egg, that's it. Some people get 2. Now, this is when you're most likely to get some kind of pelvic pain or spotting. This is around day kind of 14 if you take an average cycle length of 28 days. And then at the end of the luteal phase, you have the period, so your menstruation, okay? So this is when blood, your uterine lining, cervical mucus, etc. leaves the vagina, and it then restarts the follicular phase, okay? So that's what your menstrual cycle is. So what does this mean for diet and training? Well, it means quite a lot, actually. So in the first phase of the cycle, so day 1 to day 14 in your follicular phase, your estrogen is the most dominant hormone in your body, okay? Estrogen actually suppresses appetite and improves insulin sensitivity, okay? And it protects your muscles against soreness, okay? So this is the best time to diet because you're not as hungry, and lift heavier. So just before you start to ovulate, so around day 5 to 13, you're actually at your strongest. So this is when you're going to get your personal records in, your personal bests in, and you will physically be able to lift heavier. You may feel stronger. You may go up from like a 10 to 15 kilo dumbbell for like a row or something. And then what will happen in the next phase, you'll be like, how did I lift a 15 when I can't even lift a 10 right now? Okay. So in the 14 days, from the day 1 of your period to day like 14, 15, lift heavy and diet, okay? Also, this is the phase that you're going to be able to put on the most muscle mass, okay? So in layman terms, we'll call it toning because that's all it is. That's all toning is. It's just putting on muscle, removing fat. So my best piece of advice to you would be never skip leg day in this phase. And this phase is perfect for eating a little bit more carbohydrates on the day that you train to fuel those sessions. So it's the best time to get shit hot on your diet. it's the best time to eat more carbohydrates. In fact, the first 14 days of your cycle, from when your period starts to the ovulation, you're in a really good space. And actually, you should probably just do your dieting right there and then, okay? Now, the second phase is the luteal phase. So in the second phase, you are progesterone dominant, okay? So in this phase, you will require between 1 and 300 more calories per day. So that's 100 and 300 more calories per day. But most of us eat more like 500, okay? Because we can't control our hunger, okay? So this phase, we will feel hungry, we will get PMS, we will be in pain, we might even feel depression, or just like really low moods as well. And so basically your body is technically getting ready for pregnancy. So it's technically expecting that mature egg to get fertilized and implant itself in your uterine wall, okay? So at this time, you may find that you have less strength and less endurance. So your body is ready to rest, to grow something, okay? And so you're going to feel a little bit like, oh, I don't have the energy right now. So, for example, I know that about 3 to 4 days before my period, I am at my weakest and all I want to do is eat. And all I want is bread, cheese, and chocolate, okay? But I should be considering, if my daily caloric intake is 1600, then maximum I should go to is 19. But more likely, and I know this, I go to about 2200. So I actually eat about 600 calories too many in the couple of days leading up to my period, because that's all I can consider. And I don't feel bad about that, because I know that right now, I mean, I'm going to take those calories back. I'm going to earn them back by eating less or moving more in my follicular phase. So what you want to do in this phase, so the last 14 days of your period, if your period averages 25 days, is you want to forget trying to get personal best. You want to forget trying to get heavier and heavier. You want to go lighter weights and more reps, okay? If you're doing a normal strength training program, or if you're doing circuit training, you just want to do a bit more of that than you do. And even when you're doing circuit training, just go lighter with your weights, okay? So don't bother with PBs. Don't bother with too much like heavy lifting. Still lift weights. If you can pick up a 15 kilo, if you can pick up a 30 kilo, go for it. I know that in my follicular phase, I can lift like an 80 kilo deadlift. In my luteal phase, I'm looking at more like 40, 50 kilo deadlift, because I physically cannot lift it, because I just feel like there's no energy there, okay? So you also may find that you have decrease in motivation, and that's all to do with your PMS and your mood swings and stuff like that. So from day 14 to the day you start your period is the best time to take any rest days. So if you feel like you don't need rest days in a 2-week period, the follicular phase, then don't have them, but then have them in your luteal phase, okay? So this is also, unfortunately, the time that we crave carbs, we crave chocolate, we crave all that kind of comfort food that makes us feel better about ourselves, okay? But this is also the time that you need to refrain from it, because you cannot be digesting that right now. You're not moving enough. You're eating a little bit too much, okay? So try and refrain from the carbs at this time if you can, and stick to kind of higher fats. So think salmon, think sweet potato, think cheeses, okay? So also, this is not the best time to start a diet. Instead, use this time as damage control. Try not to overeat and be a lot kinder to yourself, okay? So luteal phase and follicular phase. Follicular phase is your good phase. You can lift heavy, you can eat carbs. Luteal phase, the last 14 days up to your period, especially the last kind of 3 or 4, life feels hard, okay? Because your body's getting ready for pregnancy. Life feels hard. You're eating more. You're required to eat a little bit more as well, okay? So this shows us that like our physiology is really, really different week to week, okay? So in the long term, the best time to weigh and measure yourself would be, I would say, around 1 week into your period, okay? So around day 5, day 6, day 7, just after your period is kind of over, okay? And then weigh yourself at the same time each month, because if you weigh yourself every week at the same time, like on a Monday, you're in different physiological states. your weight's never going to be the same. So we're doing that right now because it's such a short program. But if you're going long term, a monthly weigh-in and check-in before or after your period is the right time to do it, okay? Then you'll have a constant. Your constant will be on the same day after your period. You're in the same physiological state, and then you can do a weigh and measure, and you should see proper results, okay? So I hope that this has helped you understand how the period and the menstrual cycle can affect your diet and your training, and also your mood swings, and why you feel certain ways, and why you feel strong certain times in the month, and why you don't feel strong certain times in the month. So just a quick video about the menstrual cycle. There you go.